Now let's go live to our Abuja studios, where we're now being joined on the news at 10 by Mr. Udo Jude Ilo, a lawyer and the head of the Nigerian office for the Open Society Initiative of West Africa, OSIWA, to look at some of the fallouts from the suspension of Justice Walter Onnoghen as the Chief Justice of Nigeria. Great to have you on the news at 10.
Thank you very much.
Now, since Friday, when that announcement was made, there's been a barrage of reactions from lawyers to politicians, civil society groups, and even students. Now, are you surprised by the amount of reaction this issue has generated?
No, I'm not surprised. Most times we fail to understand the growing sophistication of the Nigerian population and the growing interest we have in the way and manner we're being governed. So I'm not really surprised about the very passionate reaction that has met the actions taken by the president last week. And the point to make is that this gives us a lot of reasons to worry, given the fact that these acts are coming few weeks to the election. It is really difficult for most Nigerians, including myself, to disassociate what has happened with the larger question about the election. So a lot of people are seeing a nexus between this and the election. People are seeing it as something calculated, perhaps, to undermine the way the election may or may not go. So it is really difficult for people to keep quiet, because we know that where we are right now is a situation where a lot of Nigerians who want to exercise their power, of their vote. And they will want to do that with the understanding that if something goes wrong, the judiciary should be in a position to provide impartial arbitration on those conflicts. So people are really worried. So I am very much excited, by the way, the reaction from Nigerians across the divide.
Definitely, and people are not keeping quiet. We saw a series of protests in the nation's capital, Abuja, today, as well as other parts of the country. Also, the body of lawyers, MBA, has directed its members to stay away from the courts for 2 days at least. So how do you see this playing out?
First of all, we have to accept the fact that these are very grave times for our country. We are actually in the middle of a constitutional crisis, and this is coming few weeks to our general election. The way I see this, we need to find a solution. We need to find a middle ground as quickly as possible. Because one, the international community is looking at us. People are nervous within the country how this is going to pan out. The fact of the matter is that the three arms of government in Nigeria are equal before the law. And we're seeing a situation whereby the Chief Justice of Nigeria has been suspended by the president in an action that most people have come to realize falls short of the constitutional requirements. So we're in a crisis. We're in a crisis because the judiciary plays a very fundamental role in election. When you look at the threshold and benchmark for credible election, the independence of the judiciary counts amongst the fundamental points that needs to be in place for elections to be credible, free, and fair. So here we're in a situation where we're going into this election with a judiciary that is badly battered, credibility is gravely undermined, and an executive that is showing a bit of recklessness that is capable of undermining the democracy we've so much valued. So for me, I think one or two things will happen. One is that we're all looking with expectation on what the NJC is going to say tomorrow regarding what has happened. We also understand that the Senate has gone to court questioning the constitutionality of the steps taken by the president. And these two incidents, that is the action by the Senate and of course the meeting tomorrow by the NJC, is going to at least give us an idea of the possibility that are before us. But my hope is that the NJC is able to call the president to order, is able to call the Chief Justice to order, and of course also call to order the purported acting Chief Justice of the country. I think that the ideal situation for me is to see that the two principal participants in this crisis, the CJN and Justice Tanko Mohammed, should at least step aside while we get, while we're able to resolve the crisis that we're facing. And I'm also hoping that the NJC should pass a very strong message to the president that in this democracy that we've paid for with blood, actions like this cannot be tolerated and cannot be allowed.
Well, most of those that have spoken on the president's actions have cited the legality or illegality, as the case may be. As a lawyer, what's your own understanding of the law on this subject?
I mean, the constitution of this country is the grand norm, is the grandfather of all laws. It's from that constitution that every other agency of government, every activity of government derives its legitimacy. And looking at the Constitution, precisely Section 292 of the Constitution, there is no way I have seen, neither in the Constitution or the schedule to the Constitution, where the president can claim that he borrowed the powers to do what he has done. I think the action is totally unconstitutional and quite despotic. I don't think there is any way we can, frame this lightly. It is an aberration of the Constitution and one that is capable of undermining or irreparably damaging our democracy. So that is my position. And it is not just about the law. The timing, the optics of it, leaves a lot to be desired. These filings by the CJN were done, I understand, more than 3 years ago. And it's quite curious that we are talking about those filings, trying to suspend the CJN some weeks to the election. And let us not also run away from the fact that the CJN will be the one to constitute the panel to look at any election petition that might come up in the presidential election. So it smells bad any way you may look at it. From the political angle, it smells bad. From the constitutional angle, it smells bad. And from the basis of decency and respect for the people of Nigeria and for the democracy we have so much, sacrificed for, I think this is a terrible mistake by the president.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jude Ilo, a legal practitioner, for sharing your thoughts with us on the News at 10. To other stories now, the Nigeria Labour Congress, NLC, is insisting on a minimum wage of 30,000 naira. The union restated this demand during a public hearing on the national minimum wage organized by the House of Representatives. Our correspondent, Linda Akiwe, has the rest of the story.
These members of labour unions leave no one in doubt about where they stand on the minimum wage issue. They are firmly opposed to the 27,000 naira proposed in the minimum wage bill, which President Buhari sent to the National Assembly for passage.
Members of the ad hoc committee.
The House of Representatives is the convener of this public hearing to get the views of the concerned parties on the minimum wage bill. The president of the Nigeria Labour Congress explains the reason for the insistence on an increase in the minimum wage of workers.
All of us must sympathize with the condition of Nigeria. 30,000 translates to 1,000 naira per day. 30,000 naira translates to 15 naira per meal for every member of the family. If you have a family of 6, husband and wife and 4 children, it translates to 15 naira per meal.
The Minister of Labour tries to explain the federal government's decision to peg the minimum wage at 27,000 naira, but his presentation is punctuated by chants and boos from the audience.
I also want you to note that the President of the Federation, knowing fully well the capacity and what the federal government can do, had instructed the Budget Minister and the Finance Minister to look at this particular issue in such a way that there will be sustainability of whatever amount is agreed on. Because whatever amount is agreed on will have consequential effect upstairs. You must move people upstairs. Because having moved the lowest person from 18,000 to 27,000, you have encroached on a bigger level. And once you encroach on bigger levels, you move them up and they get more money.
Besides insisting on 30,000 naira, organised labour also proposed some amendments in the bill, which includes the removal of the clause which exempts organizations with less than 25 workers from paying the proposed minimum wage. Linda Akibi, Channels Television News.
Now let's cross over to Abuja studios where Linda is standing by with more stories. Hello, Linda.
Hello, Melinda. Welcome back to Abuja. The Ekiti State Governorship Election Petition Tribunal has upheld the election of Governor Kayode Fayemi as a duly elected governor of the state. The three-man panel of justices, in a unanimous judgment that lasted almost 5 hours, dismissed the petition filed by the People's Democratic Party and its candidate, Professor Olushola Kolapo, for lacking in merit and in substance. The tribunal held that the various allegations raised against the election conducted by INEC on July 14, 2018 were not proved as required by law. The tribunal specifically said that rather than establishing the allegations of corruption, malpractices, ballot box snatching, non-accreditation, overvoting, and deliberate voiding of votes, among others, the petitioners dumped worthless documents on the tribunal without demonstrating them. The chairman of the tribunal, Justice Suleiman Belgore, said that contrary to the claims of the petitioners, Mr. Fayemi was duly and lawfully returned as winner of majority votes by INEC. The tribunal held that it was established beyond reasonable doubt that the APC candidate in election scored 197,459 votes as against the 178,121 votes scored by Professor Olubumi to emerge winner of the poll. The tribunal took judicial notice that out of 2,158 polling units in the state, the conduct of the election was challenged in 1,458 units, while only 41 polling agents were called to testify as to what transpired in areas of dispute. The judge held that calling 41 polling agents as witnesses out of 1,458 polling units was fatal to the case of the petitioners because the 41 agents invited as witnesses were too scanty and grossly few to make any impact in the petition. The Independent National Electoral Commission is concerned about the impact of conflicting judgments and consequential orders emanating from the court of law ahead of the forthcoming 2019 general elections. Speaking at the workshop election petition for justice and judges, a national commissioner, Mrs. May Agbamuche, pointed out that it is putting the commission in a difficult situation. Recently, 2 different courts gave different pronouncements on the Zamfara State All Progressives Congress primaries on the participation of the party in the 2019 general election. Mrs. Agbamuche tasked the judiciary to eliminate cases of conflicting orders by courts of coordinate jurisdiction. And that's all from Abuja. Back to you, Melinda.
Thank you so much, Linda.